Thank you for joining us today on our webinar, How Sky Betting and Gaming is Driving Real-Time Operations Transformation. We've got a great presentation on what it looks like to become more operationally mature in your organization, with specific input from Sky Betting and Gaming on how they view maturity and what it takes to get there. Before we start, some quick housekeeping. Today's presentation will be recorded and will be shared with all registrants. And we will have a Q&A at the end of the presentation. Please enter your questions in the chat box. And if we can't get to them during the presentation, we'll reach out afterwards. Okay, so our presenters today, our speakers are Wheeldon, who is Service Operations Manager at Sky Betting and Gaming. We've got Amit Juyal, Senior Service Lifecycle Manager at Sky Betting and Gaming. Rachel Obstler, VP of Product at PagerDuty, and Neil MacGowan, Technology Evangelist and Strategist at Relic. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Rachel.
Thanks, Perrine. So today, what we're going to talk about is first an overview of how digital is changing operations. And then I'll hand it over to Sky Betting and Gaming, who will talk about their DevOps and operational transformation and the key learnings that they had going through that process. And then lastly, we'll spend a little bit of time, myself and Neil, talking about tools that can accelerate your operational maturity, PagerDuty and New Relic. And then lastly, as Perrine said, we'll take Q&A at the end. So if we move to the next slide, I'm going to talk a bit about how digital is really changing the way that you need to operate. And on the next slide, that leads to 4 key macro trends that we're seeing. And the first one is, in the digital world, and probably in the last 10 years, pretty much every company that's been around longer than 10 years is going through a digital transformation. And then there's all the companies that have been born in the cloud, who are those digital disruptors. But for all of them, it's clear that there's a real importance of real-time action, being able to respond to anything that happens in real time, because your customers, and that could be your external customers, it could be internal employees, but they've grown to expect 24/7 capabilities, always on access to whatever they want. And in fact, there's a lot of metrics out there. One of them is that 81% of users will wait less than a minute before abandoning an application. So just saying this isn't working, it's taking too long, and I'm out of here. And so what that also means is that companies have been transforming the way that they operate and moving to more of a full service ownership model. So where someone is coding and owning their software. And what that does is it improves agility. It means that the person who is operating something, was the last one to touch it, knows what the problem could be and can more quickly and easily fix it. And then this moves to the developers really being the architects of the whole digital experience. Other trends that are going on is the rise in operational complexity. So there's a lot of infrastructure changing, and that's the other trend. So you have migration to the cloud, you have monoliths changing to microservices, you have growth in services like Lambda, where you're leveraging and building on cloud services. And this is also leading to just a huge rise in operational complexity. And a little bit of metrics around that are that that the monthly events per responder that we've seen just in PagerDuty's data across all of our customers has increased 3 times in the past 3 years. So everyone who is managing these infrastructure is dealing with more noise, more information, and having to deal with an increasingly complex infrastructure. So if we move on to the next slide, what that means and what that's leading to is is we're seeing a lot of leading companies really reimagining the way that they're doing operations. And, you know, it means that the old reactive method of doing queued work or waiting to find out that there's an issue from a customer doesn't work. You need to be able to operate in real time. It's less of a queued system. It's more of a swarm when something goes wrong and you bring in all the people that you need quickly. It's a lot more collaborative in that way. It's putting monitoring in place so you can be proactive in figuring out that there's a problem. It's investing in automation so that you can instantly route data that you need to the right place, that you can spin up a response very quickly, that you're not going down a call list, for instance, and trying to find someone, you know, by calling them one by one to help you. And it's moving from a more command and control type of method towards the individual responsibility and democratization of data to make sure that the people on the front lines can respond quickly. And then lastly, it's going from more static or rules-based approaches to a system that can learn and be intelligent and get smarter and help you operate better all the time. So moving on to the next slide, what PagerDuty has done is we looked at what makes a company successful, working with a lot of our customers, and we built a real-time operations maturity model to help companies understand where they are and how they can improve. And so this maturity